Some men control cities, some control empires. But Sam Giancana controlled something more dangerous: secrets. He rigged elections, planned assassinations for the CIA, shared mistresses with presidents, and built an empire that stretched from Chicago to Havana. And when those secrets threatened to come out, someone put 7 bullets in his head. Because the most dangerous weapon in America isn't a gun, it's the truth. June 15, 1908, Chicago, Illinois. The neighborhood they called the Patch, a crumbling slum on the west side where Sicilian immigrants crowded into tenements that leaked in winter and baked in summer. The streets smelled of rotting garbage and desperate poverty. Police rarely came here. When they did, they came with clubs and contempt. Guillermo Giancana, later known as Salvatore, then Sam, then Momo, was born into a Sicilian immigrant family. His father, Antonio, was a violent man who beat his children with fists and belts. A man whose rage came from humiliation, from working brutal hours for pennies while America promised prosperity. Young Guillermo learned early. The world was cruel, authority was a lie, and the only way to survive was to be more ruthless than everyone else. He became renowned for truancy, was expelled from elementary school, and sent to a reformatory. He didn't learn discipline. He learned how to survive among predators. By age 10, he was stealing. By 12, he was running with street gangs. By 15, he joined the 42 Gang, one of the most violent youth gangs in Chicago, a training ground for future killers. The 42 Gang didn't steal candy. They robbed stores, hijacked trucks, beat rivals with pipes and bats. Police believed that by the time he was 20, Giancana had committed 3 murders. And the authorities? They couldn't stop him. In 1926, he was arrested and charged with murder, but was not tried, likely because the key witnesses kept ending up dead. Sam Giancana understood power before he could vote. Witnesses disappear, cops can be bought, and fear is more reliable than loyalty. Giancana served prison time for car theft and burglary, with many biographies stating that he was arrested more than 70 times throughout his life. But prison didn't break him, it educated him. He met older criminals, learned their methods, built connections, and when he got out, he had a plan. He was going to meet Al Capone. By the end of the 1930s, Giancana graduated out of the 42 Gang and into Al Capone's Chicago outfit, starting his work for the mob boss after meeting him in a brothel. It was the break Sam had been waiting for. Capone saw something in the young street thug: intelligence, ambition, and a willingness to do what others wouldn't. Giancana became a wheelman, driving getaway cars for robberies and hits. Then he became an enforcer, then a killer. But Sam was smart. He didn't just follow orders, he studied the business. He watched how Capone ran Chicago, how he controlled politicians, how he moved money, how he built an empire that generated millions while the government struggled to prove anything in court. When Capone went to prison in 1931 for tax evasion, the outfit didn't collapse. It evolved. New bosses took over: Paul the waiter, Rica, and Tony Joe Batters Accardo, and they rebuilt the organization into something smarter, quieter, and more profitable than Capone ever dreamed. And Sam Giancana? He climbed. Throughout the 1940s and early 50s, Giancana served as a ruthless and effective enforcer, managing gambling and loan sharking operations for Accardo. His increasing influence and knack for generating revenue solidified his position in the outfit's upper echelons. But Sam's real breakthrough came with the policy racket, the illegal lottery that thrived in Chicago's black neighborhoods. It was a gold mine. Every day, thousands of poor people bet nickels and dimes hoping for a big win. And every day, the outfit collected those nickels and dimes. In the early 1940s, Giancana was involved in a takeover of Chicago's black American lottery payout system for the outfit. But the black operators who ran the games didn't want to give them up. In 1946, Giancana abducted his former pal Eddie Jones in plain daylight, in front of his wife and secretary, and shoved him into a van. The cops chased Giancana, whose cohorts fired and even wounded an officer. In exchange for a $100,000 ransom, Jones and his brother agreed to leave the policy racket to their partner, Teddy Rowe, and Giancana. Later that same year, an attempt to kidnap Rowe failed, but Rowe refused to back down to the Italian organized crime outfit. so Sam eliminated him. Rowe was shot to death on a Chicago street in 1952. Sam Giancana terrorized the black community on Chicago's South Side. But he didn't just terrorize, he conquered. Within a few years, Giancana controlled the entire policy racket, generating tens of millions of dollars annually for the outfit. In 1957, the outfit's top man, Tony Joe Batters Accardo, stepped aside and anointed Giancana, who had successfully consolidated illegal lottery rackets in Chicago through the tactic of murdering reluctant rivals, as his successor. Though in retirement, Accardo maintained considerable influence. Sam Giancana, the kid from the patch, was now the boss of the Chicago outfit, one of the most powerful crime organizations in America. Unlike the old bosses who stayed in Chicago, Sam thought globally. Like Accardo, who had a permanent second residence in Palm Springs, California, Giancana frequently spent time away from Chicago and invested in Las Vegas, as well as offshore casinos in Iran, the Caribbean, and Great Britain. Las Vegas was booming. The casinos were legal, the money was endless, and the outfit had a piece of it all. Giancana oversaw the skim, the millions in cash that never appeared in official records, that went straight into the outfit's pockets. But his real crown jewel was Cuba. Before Fidel Castro's 1959 revolution, Havana was a paradise for gangsters. The casinos, the hotels, the nightclubs, the outfit and other crime families controlled them all, with the blessing of dictator Fulgencio Batista. Hyman Larner was an associate of Giancana's who helped expand the outfit's gambling and smuggling operations to Panama and Iran, moving the Miami operations headquarters to Panama, where money laundering was more easily facilitated by local banks. Sam was making millions. And then Castro took over and kicked the mobsters out. Giancana hated Castro with a passion. The revolution hadn't just cost him money, it had cost him his empire. So when the CIA came calling with an offer, Sam listened. During the 1960s, Giancana was recruited by the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, in a plot to assassinate Cuban leader Fidel Castro. About the same time as Attorney General Robert Kennedy's campaign to expose the mob Giancana and another mob boss, Santo Traficante Jr., were contacted by the CIA in a complex plot to assassinate Castro, who had kicked the mob out of Cuba after his 1959 revolution. Chicago outfit boss Sam Giancana and his mob pal Johnny Roselli were recruited by the CIA during the Cold War to kill Cuba's dictator Fidel Castro, a plan that remained hidden from the public for more than a decade. 3 decades ago, the federal government acknowledged that in the early 1960s, the CIA had agreed to pay Giancana and mobster John Roselli some $150,000 to assassinate Fidel Castro in Cuba. It was insane. The United States government, the same government that had been trying to arrest Giancana for decades, was now partnering with him to commit murder. But it made perfect sense. The CIA had the authority. The outfit had the connections in Cuba. Together, they could eliminate a communist dictator 90 miles from Florida. The hidden microphone, planted illegally in the downtown Chicago headquarters of Sam Giancana's outfit, yielded a wealth of information for the FBI. On October 18, 1960, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover alerted the CIA that Giancana knew all about a murder plan against Fidel Castro. The FBI was listening. They heard everything, but they had no idea the CIA was behind it. The assassination attempts were elaborate and bizarre. Marita Lorenz, who reportedly had an affair with Castro, was given 2 poison pills she was to place in Castro's food, but the pills dissolved into the cold cream in which they were smuggled. Other bungled attempts involve methods ranging from an exploding cigar to a drug-soaked microphone to the use of bazookas to poisoning Castro's scuba wetsuit. Every attempt failed. Castro survived. And Sam Giancana. Giancana reportedly said that CIA and the Cosa Nostra were different sides of the same coin. He wasn't wrong. But the Castro plot wasn't the most explosive secret Sam Giancana held. The biggest secret was his connection to President John F. Kennedy. Some journalists claimed that Giancana and his Chicago crime syndicate played a role in John F. Kennedy's victory in the 1960 presidential election. According to Giancana mistress Judith Exner and Frank Sinatra's daughter Tina Sinatra, Giancana used his connections to persuade unions to support Kennedy. According to Exner, Giancana bragged to her that Kennedy would never have been elected without him. During John F. Kennedy's election campaign in 1960, Giancana's influence in Chicago was called upon to help Kennedy defeat Richard Nixon in Illinois. Giancana pulled some strings with his local connections and reportedly swung the balance of the election. Sam had delivered Illinois to Kennedy. The outfit had rigged votes, bribed officials, and mobilized union workers. Kennedy won Illinois by less than 9,000 votes. And many believed that without Illinois, Kennedy wouldn't have won the presidency. But there was something even more scandalous. Following the death of his wife Angeline in 1954, Giancana was linked to a series of attractive women, including the singer Phyllis McGuire and a call girl named Judith Exner, a woman who he allegedly would share with the future U.S. president. Judith Campbell Exner wasn't just Sam's mistress. She was also sleeping with President Kennedy. She was the link between the Oval Office and the Chicago outfit. She carried messages. She facilitated meetings. She was the bridge between two worlds that should never have touched. And Frank Sinatra? He was the connector. Sinatra introduced Kennedy to Giancana. Sinatra brought Exner into both men's lives. Tabloid fodder gets play, like Frank Sinatra's mob ties, including his friendship with Giancana, the affair between singer Phyllis McGuire and Giancana, and the story of Judy Campbell Exner, who claimed to be the mistress of Kennedy and Giancana. It was a scandal waiting to explode. A mob boss who helped elect a president, who shared a mistress with him, who was working with the CIA to kill Castro. If this ever came out, it would destroy everything. And then, on November 22, 1963, President Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas. On November 22, 1963, President Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas. The conclusion of the Warren Commission, created by President Lyndon Johnson to investigate the assassination, was that leftist loner Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone in shooting the president. But theories persist that the mob was somehow involved. Many of them link Giancana to the conspiracy, ostensibly, because of his anger over Attorney General Robert Kennedy's campaign against organized crime. It is alleged that Giancana came to regret aiding Kennedy get elected, due to the fact that Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy made significant efforts to crack down on organized crime. Sam had put JFK in the White House. And what did he get in return? Robert Kennedy declared war on the mafia. The FBI intensified surveillance. Grand juries started investigating. The outfit was under siege. For decades, one prominent theory on JFK's assassination has been that the mob wanted revenge on his family after Brother Bobby began prosecuting them. Did Giancana order Kennedy's death? The evidence is murky. The conspiracy theories are endless, but one thing is certain. After Dallas, everything changed. The FBI tightened its grip. Giancana was present at the Mafia's 1957 Appalachian meeting at the upstate New York estate of Joseph Barbara. Giancana claimed that the Chicago area was the safest place in the world for a major underworld meeting because he had several police chiefs on his payroll. Giancana took a keen interest in politics and was involved in many political rackets. In addition, he had figures such as police chiefs on his payroll, but the corruption that once protected him was eroding. In 1965, Sam was called to testify before a grand jury about organized crime. Giancana refused to talk, and in 1965 was jailed for contempt. He spent a year in prison. When he got out in 1966, the outfit had moved on without him. Rica and Accardo had oversight of the outfit during Giancana's reign, albeit from the shadows. When Giancana was imprisoned, Accardo stepped back into the acting leadership role. Sam wasn't the boss anymore. He was a liability. After Giancana's release in 1966, he hastily fled to Mexico and established business endeavors south of Mexico City in Cuernavaca. He remained there until 1974 when, as declassified CIA and FBI documents show, Mexican officials detained Giancana on July 19, 1974, and moved to expel him. He returned to American soil 2 days later. Although still a powerful figure in the Chicago mob, Giancana's leadership days were over. He was older, weaker, irrelevant. The outfit was thriving under new leadership. Sam was yesterday's news. But then, in 1975, everything exploded. In 1974, journalist Seymour Hersh released a front-page story in the New York Times, alleging that the CIA had been monitoring anti-war activists for more than 10 years, breaching its charter. In 1974, Giancana returned to the US. By the following year, word had gotten out publicly that the CIA had used underworld connections to try to kill Castro. The Senate convened official hearings on the subject and called Rosselli and Giancana to testify. The Church Committee, a Senate investigation into CIA abuses, wanted answers. They wanted to know about the Castro plot. They wanted to know about the mob's connections to the Kennedy administration. They wanted Sam Giancana to tell them everything. By May 1975, Sam Giancana and Johnny Rosselli were still friends, linked by their criminal conspiracies, though no longer young and powerful. And Sam? He was terrified. If he testified, he'd break the code of silence. The outfit would kill him. But if he refused, the government would put him back in prison for contempt. There was no way out. On June 19, 1975, Francine, Sam's youngest daughter, her husband and their daughter visited Sam at his Oak Park home. They shared some dinner. As the youngest of Angeline's babies, Francine had always been Sam's favorite. His surgical wounds were still very tender. He had lost a lot of weight. Weekly, Giancana chatted with his family and two old friends from the outfit, Chucky English and Butch Blasi, until they all departed near 11 o'clock. Earlier that day, Senate Intelligence Committee staffers arrived in Chicago, aware that Giancana had little taste for a grilling by a congressional committee. The next morning, they intended to escort him safely to Washington to answer the Church Committee's questions about the CIA's homicidal schemes. Late in the evening of June 19, 1975, Sam "Momo" Giancana was cooking in his basement apartment, presumably for a guest. Before the late-night meal could be served, Giancana was shot in the back of the head. On 19th of June 1975, he was murdered in his own home while cooking sausages. He had a huge wound on the back of his head and had also been shot 6 times in a circle around his mouth. 7 bullets, 1 in the back of the head, 6 in a circle around his mouth. The message was clear. This is what happens to men who talk. The murder of the former Chicago outfit boss remains one of the most debated unsolved homicides in organized crime history. There is no shortage of theories floating around about who took out Giancana and why. One theory has fellow Chicago mobster Tony Spilotro killing him as a personal vendetta. Others claim it was Blasi, acting on behalf of the outfit over money or power struggles. Other theories propose the CIA did it as a cover-up for either the Castro assassination plot or the mob's alleged role in the JFK assassination. Blasi was the last person to see Giancana alive, a fact he never denied. Blasi was never charged despite being one of the most likely suspects. But Giancana's family believed he'd been killed because of his work with Rosselli on the CIA assassination plots against Castro. I always felt very strongly that the subpoena requiring Sam to appear before the committee was the death warrant that led to his murder, insisted Antoinette Giancana, his daughter. On June 23, 1975, reporters swarmed Giancana's funeral. 100 mourners attended his memorial service. Young toughs threatened to beat up photographers if they snapped the casket passing by. None of the top members of Chicago's outfit paid their respects, as though they'd been warned in advance. Sam Giancana died alone, abandoned by the organization he'd served his entire life. A year later, Johnny Rosselli, the other mobster who'd worked with the CIA, was also murdered. By 1976, 2 mobsters involved in the anti-Castro effort, Sam Giancana and Johnny Rosselli, were slain, presumably to keep them quiet about the plot, though neither killing has been solved. Giancana was shot to death at his home in Oak Park, Illinois, west of downtown Chicago. Rosselli's body was recovered from a 55-gallon oil drum in a bay near Miami. Sam Giancana took his secrets to the grave. He never testified. He never told the world what he knew about Kennedy, about Castro, about the CIA, about the outfit's deals with presidents and spies. But the pieces are there, scattered across declassified documents, Senate testimonies, conspiracy theories, and whispered conversations in dark corners. These operations were conducted as a partnership between the Mafia and the CIA. That sentence should terrify everyone. The United States government partnered with organized crime to commit murder. And when those mobsters became liabilities, they were eliminated. It is widely believed that fellow mob figures from New York and Chicago families ordered the hit on Giancana, likely because the information he was being ordered to provide broke the Mafia code of silence. The outfit survived. The Chicago outfit is still active today, quieter and smarter than it ever was under Sam. But the era of mob bosses dining with presidents, planning assassinations with spies, and walking through Vegas like kings, that era died with Sam Giancana. Because Sam's story isn't just about organized crime. It's about power. It's about how far men will go to protect secrets. It's about how the lines between government and gangsters, between law and lawlessness, between democracy and corruption, are thinner than anyone wants to admit. Sam Giancana rigged an election and helped make John F. Kennedy president. He worked with the CIA to try to kill Fidel Castro. He shared a mistress with the leader of the free world, and when those secrets threatened to come out, someone put 7 bullets in his head while he cooked sausages in his basement. The most powerful nation on earth couldn't kill Castro, but they could kill Sam Giancana, and they did. Some secrets are worth dying for. Some secrets are worth killing for. Sam Giancana held both kinds. He built an empire on murder, corruption, and silence. He helped elect a president. He worked for the CIA. He lived like a king, with showgirls on his arm and politicians in his pocket. And when the Senate came calling, when the truth was about to spill out, someone walked into his house and put 7 bullets in him. 1 in the back of the head, 6 around his mouth. A message in blood. Silence is sacred. He died cooking sausages for a friend who was probably his killer. He died alone, abandoned, erased. The Chicago outfit moved on. The CIA buried the files. The government pretended he never existed. And the secrets? The secrets stayed buried. Because in America, some truths are too dangerous to speak. And Sam Giancana learned that the hard way, with a gun to his head and nowhere left to run.